are you? Yeah. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. שבת אחים גם
Well, they
יחד,
can I feel bad asking them without having read through it. Like it's, you know.
שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב. שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב. שבת אחים גם יחד. That's okay. I got it.
Shabbat Shalom. We haven't
Shabbat
quite
Shalom.
worked out like the height, the table. We're gonna get there. I don't know. I feel like a giant now next to Noah, and I'm wearing my flat shoes. But we'll figure it out. Welcome everybody. I'm sure that you know Noah Levy, who needs no introduction here whatsoever. But I'm gonna introduce her anyway because it's her first official service with us as our cantorial soloist, and we're so excited to have you. And Ben, of course, who's here and part of our Sherith Israel family, Noah's husband. And you'll see the little one, not tonight, but from time to time.
Absolutely.
So now that we've reached May 2023, I feel like it's a bit of a moment of Shehechianu as we welcome Noah officially to this place. So welcome.
All right.
Jonathan needs no introduction and is certainly not new. How long have you been here? I don't even know.
17 years.
Like I said, amazing. Jonathan Dimmick, our music director, and I want to welcome all of you. Please take, I'm Jessica. Please take just a moment. I think I know everybody. Anybody never been here before? No. Please take just a moment and introduce yourself to everybody around you and say Shabbat Shalom.
Good to see you. Face to face. Shabbat shalom. Good to see you guys.
So we're going to try something a little bit different with the order of the service tonight. I want to take a moment to make some announcements now while you're fresh and awake. Tell you a couple of things that are coming up that we're excited about, and you can take these little sheets home with you to read more about them later. But tomorrow morning, please join me for Torah study at 9:15. And I especially want to welcome everybody on Wednesday night to part 2 of a 5-part series that is co-sponsored by Hills of Eternity on death, dying, and grieving, part of life. It was wonderful last Wednesday. They're drop-in sessions, and you're welcome to come. We are very grateful, Diane and Eric representing the HOE board, and Ruth, and that counts, and Ruth, and who am I missing? Nancy. See, this is the problem. Once you start naming people, you get into big trouble. So our wonderful HOE board has partnered with us to bring you this class, and it's really worthwhile. So please join us at 5 o'clock on Wednesday. And then there's a lot of other really cool stuff going on from a climate action program and Nashen Shmooze and a wonderful salon on Israeli poetry with Rabbi Dr. Bill Cutter, who's going to be with us on Tuesday, May 16th. And the Martin Wiener Memorial Lecture on Thursday, May 18th. We are so lucky to have Yossi Klein Halevi, major Israeli journalist, joining us that night for a huge conversation on that we've titled, I guess, or he titled, Identity Crisis, Israel at 75. It'll be really fascinating. Confirmation and Ordination Shabbat will be on Friday, May 19th. All the details are here. And just since we've paused, I want to say I doubt he's watching. Mazal Tov to almost Rabbi George Altshuler, if you're watching. We are very excited that on Sunday, after like an interminable feeling service, about 6 hours, you will become a rabbi. And we're very proud of you and look forward to welcoming you home as Rabbi Altshuler next week. So, without further ado, I'd like to invite Eric Migdal, member of our Board of Trustees and the HOE Board, to share some words of greeting.
Shabbat Shalom to folks here and at home. Shabbat Shalom, good to see you. I'm Eric Migdal, Secretary of the Board of Trustees and also a Director on the Hills of Eternity Board. And I want to echo what Rabbi Graf said about all of the wonderful things that are going on here. Tomorrow night is the gala, which should be a wonderful, wonderful event. I'm looking forward to it. If a gala isn't your thing, come to the gala, which is also here at the same time. It'll be wonderful. Or the gala, yeah, the gala, whichever floats your boat, just be here. It's going to be fabulous for sure. The lecture series, the event series about death, dying, and grieving is also wonderful. And of course, later on this month, we have our annual meeting, which we should all attend. And it all says so much about our community, because whether we are getting together for fun, getting together to learn, or just getting together to take care of business, we're a thriving community that does all of that and so much more. Thank you all for being here tonight, and Shabbat Shalom.
Dr. Susan Borkin had a birthday this week. I would like to invite Susan and Jerry to light Shabbat candles in honor of this wonderful occasion of aging gracefully. So Shabbat Shalom, and Ad Me'ave is streamed to 120. Keep aging with wisdom and grace and good humor and good health.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Mזל טוב.
You have such a beautiful accent in Hebrew, of course, given where you came from. You can pronounce all those letters. I can't. It's so great to hear you sing. We'll continue with Mizmor Shir on page 13.
הארץ נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני, ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא, על כל אלוהים. יא לילה, יא לילה, לילה, יא לילה, לילה, יא לילה, לילה, יא לילה, יא לילה, לילה, nice harmonies.
We welcome Shabbat to enter into this space. As we turn to page 20 for Lecha Dodi, we welcome the angels of Shabbat. We welcome the Sabbath queen. We welcome the Sabbath bride, all of the images of an esteemed and wonderful guest who comes to be with us in our beautiful space. Page 20. We can do better.
עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה וביצע לה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת לקבלה one more time לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת
We turn to page 20 for Baruch Hu. We take a deep breath as we begin to enter into the central part of our service. We fill ourselves with a sense of wholeness, of air, of the breath that allows us to function, that allows us to do holy things. And so with these words of Shema on page 34, we acknowledge that we are one with each other, one with the universe, one as we connect with our own breath, as we bring oxygen into our bodies and declare the oneness of God. Page 34.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem kevod malchuto leolam va'ed.
Please be seated. I'd like to invite our wonderful teens to come up here and to help us lead Ve'ahavta, the prayer which instructs us to teach all these words to our children so that you can teach them to us, to the next generation, to everybody else. Ve'ahavta is on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושמרתם לבביך ודיברת בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם
אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We turn to page 40 as we remember always when we're together that if we hadn't been taken miraculously through an open sea onto dry land, if this incredible opportunity hadn't presented itself to us, we wouldn't be able to be here, we wouldn't have lived in freedom, and we couldn't live, all of us, working to bring freedom to the world. So we're so grateful for that moment of miracle which continues to inspire us. Page 40. Beautiful. Maddie Krantz has written something about Hashkivenu to share with us before we join together in this prayer, asking God to shelter us under a sukkah of peace, in a tent, in a temporary space where we feel safe.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
On Monday, we learned of the death of another rock On Monday, is it?
Yeah. You can hear.
Oh. On Monday, we learned of the death of another rock legend, the Canadian songwriter Gordon Lightfoot at age 84. He was a wonderful musician, the composer of so many great songs like Carefree Highway, If You Could Read My Mind, Sundown, and The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. I'm saddened by this loss, but listening to his songs this week, I was reminded that as long as we remember his music, we will be uplifted by his message. As he wrote in one of his last big hits, rainy day people all know there's no sorrow they can't rise above. So thank you, Gordon Lightfoot, for inspiring me with my own songwriting and giving us all such beautiful music and such an inspiring message. We'll always remember you on rainy days and otherwise.
Page 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom. Ve'hamdienu malchenu lechaim. Ufos aleinu sukkot shlomecha, ufos aleinu sukkot shlomecha. us from all harmful things. Oh, Adonai, keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
It's really nice to hear so many beautiful voices. For so long, we sat apart and we asked people please not to sing. And there's something so beautiful about just being able to share music in whatever ways we're comfortable, with or without masks and with or without separating, but just being in this space and hearing it filled with music again is really a great joy. We continue on page 253 with Misha Berach. As we come together, even on Shabbat, we disturb God's rest to ask for something so important for healing. On this Shabbat, we pray for the wholeness, the healing of Tzur Miriam Bat Chana V'Moshe, Feivel Ben Sivia, Jim Blattner, Daniel Burton, Cantor Martin Feldman, Bob Fonero, Stephen Gerbsman, Marcia Gruskin, Nancy Igdaloff, William Kurian, Fred Nervo, Dennis Ozer, Philip Rosenberg, Agnes Rothblatt, Kristen Zeitzer, and all those whom you mention now. We're called on as a community of individuals to make a minyan, and when we stand in front of God with our tefillah, with the central part of our prayer service, each of us prays our own prayers, and we pray as symbolically 1/10 of a community, each of us. So take just a moment to set your own kavanah, to think of what you as an individual praying would like to say, and then to think about what you as 1/10 of a community symbolically will say on behalf of all of us. We'll turn, when you're ready, to page 46, and please stand then.
תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק, אלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל, אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Shabbat Shalom. So one of the favorite questions that I get a lot is, why do we cover the challah? I don't know if there's really an answer. There are some kind of legends or, I don't know. Do you have a good answer to this, educators? Or a good answer out there? Exactly. Perfect. You don't want to get the challah jealous. Okay, so the rabbi said, and if you look in the Jewish Book of Why, I don't know, I don't think there's a real answer. But the answer that we often give is because we don't want to make the challah jealous. Exactly right. The challah is going to be blessed third. And while it has to sit there and wait in its beauty and glory and deliciousness, it shouldn't feel bad that it's going to be blessed third. So imagine an entire tradition that has grown up taking care of the challah. What does that tell you sort of about, well, the neuroses perhaps, but the potential depth of compassion of Judaism? If we care about the challah, so much more should we care about, things that actually have feelings, right? So I love that question because it reminds me to kind of think along those lines, right? Not just to care about the challah, but to care about everything that's going on. In this week's Torah portion, Parshat Emor, we get a message, a more sophisticated message along these same lines. The Torah portion teaches us that when you glean the fruits of your field, right? What are you supposed to not do? Leave the corners. Right, leave the corners. Okay, leave the corners of your field, because you know what? You have enough. However much you have in the middle, you have enough. And other people might need to come by at night or when they're hungry or when you're not looking, and they might need to collect a little bit of the food themselves. This is kind of a brilliant and radical idea way back when, because people could come and take what they needed without having to ask. Nobody was shamed. There was no judgment attached to this. In fact, the owner of the field might not even have known about it. It was just for the taking. So that message reminded me of this story of the challah. How can we create environments where we allow people, and even challah maybe, with dignity to live around us? It's an aspirational message, one that we should try very hard to achieve. We haven't gotten there yet, but it's an important message for us to think about. This is how we should best behave. Okay, but only a few verses later, after this great message of compassion, of dignity, of honor, we also get one of the times when the Torah teaches us the harsh picture of real human nature. The Torah says, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. You shall exact revenge as needed based on how somebody treats you. So how can these two things go together? It's kind of felt so jarring to me this week as I was reading them. Now, the rabbis of the Talmud and the rabbis who came later responded to this eye for an eye message and said, well, it was financial. Nobody ever meant that you should go back and you should exact revenge in, this harsh, violent way. But let's leave aside for a minute their kind of apologetic explanation, because it's a nice explanation, but it's not what the Torah says. What the Torah says is you should leave the corners of your fields, and the reality is get an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. So that kind of harsh and vengeful message also feels very, very real. The message of self-protection, of survival, of do what you have to do and take the law into your own hands. We're at a moment in life, I think, in this country, where these ancient words feel really real to me. People seem to be taking this very literally, way too literally. They're defining for themselves what insult warrants what punishment, and then just helping themselves to revenge. As I've been thinking about, kind of collecting in my mind and feeling more and more, I don't know what the word is, hopeless or desperate or angry about these kinds of experiences that we keep reading about, I was trying to imagine how to make a list of all of these things. And then I happened upon an article that did it for me. In the New York Times yesterday was an article entitled, "Making People Uncomfortable Can Now Get You Killed." Some of you may have seen this article. So in the article, the journalist talks about a number of incidents that have taken place in the last couple of weeks that are terribly upsetting and frightening, examples of some kind of personal revenge for an interpreted act of aggression, whether it was real or not. And the journalist says all across the country, supposedly good, upstanding citizens are often fatally enforcing ever-changing, arbitrary, and personal norms for how we conduct ourselves. It's very un-Jewish, you know. We're given all kinds of instructions about laws that we should follow, and making up your own system of revenge is not among them. Although the Torah does give us this cryptic message, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. You're somehow entitled to something. The article lists all of these horrible things that have happened recently. A number of horrible, vengeful acts based on individual assessments of danger and retaliation. So a couple of weeks ago in Kansas City, Ralph Yarl, a 16-year-old black kid, went to pick up his siblings and went to Northeast 115th Street instead of Northeast 115th Terrace, rang the doorbell, and was shot. Just after that, in upstate New York on a rural road, a 20-year-old woman, Kaylin Gillis, was looking for a party on a gravel driveway where there's no cell phone service. She went up the wrong driveway with a group of friends and was shot and killed for driving on someone's gravel. In Illinois, last week, a man was using a leaf blower in his yard, upset his neighbor. The sound of the leaf blower, and the neighbor killed him. In Texas, a guy was shooting in his backyard while the next door neighbor's baby was trying to sleep. When they asked him to stop shooting practice at night while the baby was trying to sleep, he came over and turned his gun on the family, shooting many members of the family. And just last Monday, on a subway in New York, a guy with perhaps mental health issues screaming made people feel that they were in danger, and a former Marine put him in a chokehold, killing him. All of these people, like this man on the subway, the street performer, did things which were pretty innocent. Maybe missteps in someone's mind, a mistake, or making someone uncomfortable. But the revenge taken was totally unacceptable, was violent, was hideous, was uncivilized. Does not allow us to live in a world where people exact this kind of revenge. We can't walk down the street like this. So in the article, the writer said, in these cases, armed assailants deputize themselves to stand their ground or enforce justice for a petty crime. I would say even in these cases, a perceived petty crime. Most of these people did nothing criminal whatsoever. Perhaps they drove on someone else's driveway or rang someone's doorbell mistakenly or shouted in the subway. Certainly not a unique experience. We've found ourselves here in a situation where this message that we stand between. On the one hand, this message of compassion, of grace, of dignity, that we should allow people to come and to take what they need, to be in our space and to join us in creating a comfortable life for themselves as we create for ourselves. Giving. We have enough. This message of abundance, on the one hand, with the idea of peah, of leaving the corners. And then we are faced with the reality of human nature. It takes a lot of work to arrive at a place where we're ready to share with others that which we have. To recognize our abundance and to recognize that there's enough. There's enough, that grace and care and love can really happen. It seems that takes some effort in human nature. Our basest impulse leads us actually, it seems, to this place that speaks to us or speaks to reality in human nature. We want an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. So this article really summed up my horror, my increased fear at even walking out the door, especially in these last 2 weeks. And in this Torah portion, these ancient words, where we find ourselves in the middle trying to establish a society. We're trying to become a people. We've gone through the Red Sea and we're going to the Promised Land. It's taking us 40 years to get there because we're wrestling with all of these ideas and impulses that we have within us, trying to figure out how humans can live together. Free humans, that is. Because we weren't free in Egypt. So when we weren't free, we didn't have to make choices like this. But when we became free, we had to do the hard work of figuring out whether we were going to live and be a society where peah would be in our minds, where making space for others and welcoming them in would be in our minds, or whether a sense of revenge and urgency to retaliate would be the way that we would function. The Torah leaves us in this precarious and uncomfortable place between these two ideas in this week's Torah portion. Just as we head into a period of time where we begin to think about the high holidays, far still away, don't panic, far away, yet ahead. We know that when we get to the book of Deuteronomy, we're going to read the words, Bacharta b'chaim laman tichyeh ata v'zarecha. As God says, I have set before you blessing and curse. Choose life so that you're going to live. The message of 3,000 years ago of figuring out how we're going to live together and how we're going to live righteously and generously remains something that we are working on. It hasn't been resolved. In all of these years of trying to build societies based on peace and generosity, we haven't gotten there yet. And as much as we work to achieve that aspirational vision of this week's Torah portion, of this message of how we could treat each other, we know that deep down there's some kind of base animal instinct that forces us to ask this question: which one will we live? We find ourselves in the tenuous place called life, right in between aspirational behavior, in which we care for each other and sustain each other, a place of no judgment, the place of peah. There's no judgment. And the place where we must judge in order to punish, to exact revenge. Really, an eye for an eye gives us permission, or recognizes that we will judge one another and act on that. After all, isn't that what's been happening around our country? A snap judgment made by someone in a position to exact revenge for a crime that maybe only they think is a crime. So this Torah portion, I think, leaves us with this message, this question to think about. How can we elevate ourselves? How can we take the message of the aspirational society of peah to bring dignity to one another, to live in a world where we don't judge, but rather give, as opposed to living in a world where we are motivated by our basest human impulses? If you think about even the challah that I smell so strongly right here, if we can have some compassion for the challah, if we can aspire to have compassion, even for those around us that we don't know, for the environment, for the people, we could create a world which is the world of peah, a world which is about the way that we can live with each other without judgment and live with each other with grace and generosity. And still we find ourselves struggling, as we are free people now for thousands of years, to not live in the world of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. It continues to be the challenge of life, and I dare say, if you look at Jewish calendar on the internet, since Yom Kippur is scheduled out hundreds of years, I imagine that struggle is going to continue as we keep finding it very difficult on a daily basis, sometimes on a larger basis, to build a country, a world, a society where we are inspired by Peah and the aspirational vision of what our community can look like. May that, in fact, inspire us to build a world that is aspirational and generous and beautiful. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
At this moment in our service, we have an opportunity to share some joys in our community. I've already mentioned that George is becoming Rabbi Altshuler on Sunday morning. Jonathan turned a half century this week. Ad Me'av is, too bad. Ad Me'av is streamed to 120. Keep learning and growing and teaching and being with us with your great spirit. Glad you had a really fun birthday. Hope the next 50 years are even better. Or 70, as the case may be. Ben, I know you brought something. This could be a nice moment to deliver it. How about that?
Oh,
sorry, I caught you off guard, but... Nice.
Thank you.
Flowers for our Noah and for Shabbat. Beautiful. And I'll share, too, that I was sitting in my office just yesterday, and I happened to look up at the wall behind me, and there, which is where my ordination certificate is hanging, seemed like as good a place as any to hang it. Where else would I put it? And I noticed with great shock, when we were in my office yesterday, right before we left, with great shock, I realized that yesterday was 20 years since I stood for ordination, which is hard to believe that those 20 years just sort of flew by. It was May 4th, 2003. And I was blessed by Rabbi David Ellenson, who put his hands over my head in the traditional way of ordaining a rabbi. And as I looked out at Temple Emmanuel, which is Temple Emmanuel of New York City, which is enormous. I don't know if anybody's ever been in there, but it's like Notre Dame. It's like holds 2,500 people or something in this beautiful cathedral kind of space. There in the kahal, in the congregation, was Rabbi Wiener standing, because you have the honor to stand for family members or students, and so there he was, and it was really a great blessing to be able to have him there with me and my family, and 2,497 other of our closest friends. So 20 years have gone by, and it's been a great blessing and a very fast 2 decades. Any other simchas that people would like to share? Happy occasions, wonderful things going on? Please, Barbie.
Wow, that's cool.
Can you just summarize that again into the microphone? Because I'm sorry.
I just got back from my cousin's bat mitzvah in Miami Beach. She did great. And then I went to visit my best friend in Boca Raton, who's a rabbi, and got to visit her synagogue, and she was ordained a year ago. So.
Nice. Who's that?
Alana Rabishaw.
Awesome. Well, welcome home to California, liberal state. Any other simchas? Great. I'm going to get my steps in.
In 2 weeks, I'm going to be leaving for Istanbul for a vacation of 2 weeks, and I'm going to have tickets to visit the Jewish Museum of Istanbul.
Wonderful. Nisya Tova. Have a great trip. And you'll tell us how it was when you came back. Have a wonderful time. Anybody else? Yeah, Dahlia.
I was running for student government, and I got it, So now I get to go to school an hour early next year. But I'm excited to, do things in the school and be more involved.
Cool. Do you have a title?
I'm PR, Public Relations Manager.
Mazal tov.
That's probably the prime minister in these days.
Very cool. You just came back from an amazing trip. Do you want to say something about your journey?
I just returned from northern Spain and also Porto in Portugal, and got to play organs all the way dating back to 1674 in 4 different cathedrals. That was really fun.
That's awesome. And did you drink some port? I did. It is good, isn't it? That stuff is good. I loved Porto. Any others? Great, Jason. Wait, hold on.
My aunt turned 100.
100.
Last Sunday.
Excellent. Awesome. Awesome. Good. Excellent. Anybody else? Okay.
Aside from having a birthday, our family bought a house in Marin like 2 years ago and ended up putting it under construction during the pandemic, which was a much longer experience than expected. And my son, my wife, and I have been living in basically one room for 2 years, and we moved into our house with rooms and doors and walls.
Mazel tov.
And I was like, I better have a house before I'm 50, and it happened. So a week before, but it happened.
Yay! That's awesome. Enjoy. Yeah, we tried to do a little construction during the pandemic. They lost our plans 3 times. It wasn't good. Nobody went to work. It wasn't good. So I'm glad you're back in a house. That's awesome. Well, in honor of all of these wonderful things, in honor of us being back together and filling our sanctuary with amazing music, I invite you to stand and join with Noah in thanking God for giving us life and sustaining us and enabling us to reach this day.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Aleinu, page 282.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Please be seated. We turn to page 295. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own zichronam livracha. May their memories be for blessing. We remember for Shiva during the first 7 days of mourning, Patricia Axelrod, who was a member of this community for 5 decades. And Jill, I hope that you're joining us from New York. We stand with you to say Kaddish tonight. For Shloshim, we remember in our community Dolores Auntie D. Cherno, Philip Erdberg, Charles M. Kunz, Arnold Saltzman, and Yochanan Giovanni Sermonetta. If you're observing Shiva or Shloshim, please stand and share a name with us. If you're observing the first year of mourning, please stand and share a name with us. If you are observing a yahrzeit tonight, please stand and share a name with us.
Dorothy Spivak.
I share other yahrzeits in our community tonight. Galina Alterman, Alex Barbalat, Dee Dee Epp, Doris Fenn, Elizabeth Gold, Mary Gorman, Rose Greenberg, Herman Horwitz, Marion Magnus Kamens, Benjamin Merkel, Jenny Miller, Retta Morgenstern, Manuel Pasek, Dr. Lawrence Rudner, Marion Rudner, Corrine Rummelsberg, Sanford Schwerson, Fernand Saparsky, Burton Stern. We stand together with our mourners as we join in Kadisha Tome on page 294. Yitgadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach yirteh ve'amlich malchuteh, v'chayachon ve'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalau v'zman kariv imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yidromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Hey shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Yosei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to mourners everywhere. And we say together, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We will conclude our service with Kiddush and Motzi. Kiddush can be found on page 5.
Baruch, gotta bless something. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri haaretz. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו. ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת באהבה ורצון, הנחלתנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
Amen. L'chaim.
לחיים.
Tonight is the last night of our teen program. We look forward to celebrating with you guys in just a couple weeks at confirmation and then being back together next year. But we would like to invite you guys to come up and to help us with Motzi. I know Noah has something to share.
Yes, there was something along those lines. So first of all, I'd like to also say I am so happy and excited to enter this new role and to share music with you and much more. I'm very approachable. If there's anything you want to say to me, please come up and let's chat.
I don't know if you want to offer that.
At exactly Tuesday at midnight. But I was hoping to invite, I see a lot of my students, and so this is going to be a Lador Vador moment, and if all of the students that want to come and do Hamotzi with me, Monique, I saw you over there, I don't know if you're still here. Rom, do you want to come? Yeah, thank you. All right, and maybe we should do one of those, if you want to, touch the challah, touch me, and let's create a little...
Well, but before we do, we have to know what it is that we're blessing.
All right.
Okay. Probably, yes. Something smells amazing. What is it?
Well, since it's on, but now it is. I thought about a disco ball, but I didn't. Today is also Cinco de Mayo, and in the spirit of multiculturalism that we encourage around here, and I always think is fun to do a challah, we have a pan dulce challah tonight.
Oh, nice.
Sure to be delicious. It smells amazing. Okay, Zach, pull off the challah cover.
Wow, that's Instagram friendly. Okay, for everyone to see. I'll try not to. All righty. All righty. Okay. Are we ready? And yeah, if you want to kind of like touch the challah, touch me, all share. Yeah, sharing, create a little connection here. All righty. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz ha'te'avon.
Shabbat shalom.
All righty. Grab a piece.